What if I told you that the wrong neighborhood could turn your dream home into a complete nightmare? Think about it. You found the perfect house. It's got a great layout, a gorgeous kitchen, maybe even a backyard that you've always dreamed of having. But then reality sets in. The neighborhood, it's unsafe, it's inconvenient, and maybe it even starts to lose its value. And suddenly that dream home of yours, it doesn't feel so dreamy anymore. And the truth is that even the most beautiful homes, they can become a nightmare if they're in the wrong area. And that's why today I'm going to be breaking down the 6 types of neighborhoods that you should never buy into. These are the kinds of places that can cost you your peace of mind, your safety, and even your investment. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Glen Hopkins, and I create videos all about Canadian real estate, especially in and around my area of Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. So if that is something you're interested in, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, and that way you're not going to miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Also, if you do have any questions about either buying or selling a home, there is a link in the description box below where you can schedule a call with me. And please know that I'm really easy to talk to. I'm just here to help you out however I can. And of course, if you prefer, feel free to shoot me a text, send me an email, whatever works best for you. All right, so let's dive in and start with a really obvious one, and that is high crime rate areas. High crime neighborhoods, they don't just mess with your peace of mind. They can also tank your property value as well. And, homes in these areas, well, you guessed it, they're also going to be harder to sell. They're also going to appreciate more slowly, and sometimes they can even lose their value over time. So here's something to think about, okay? According to Stats Canada, in 2023, Canada's crime severity index rose yet again for a 3rd year in a row. And if history tends to repeat itself, as we know it does, we're probably going to see a similar trend in 2024. Now, in that same report, it showed that property crimes, things like motor vehicle theft, it went up by 5%. And shoplifting, it jumped a whopping 18%. So they're pretty scary numbers, right? And they really drive home the importance of doing your homework before you buy a new home. So how do you avoid ending up in a high crime area? Okay, well, you're going to want to start off by looking at the local crime stats. And, most cities have those online, and they're pretty easy to find. All you need to do is type in the name of the city and crime stats, and something should pop up there for you. But you don't want to stop just there. You want to make sure that you visit the neighborhood yourself at different times of the day. A quiet street at noon, it might feel completely different after dark. And also a real quick tip here that I always recommend is that you make sure that you talk to people who live there. Long-term residents that have been there for a long time, they can give you insights that you're just not going to find anywhere else. And we should also talk about something that might not be as obvious, but can also make a big difference in your daily life. And that is areas with limited amenities. Okay, so I want you to picture this for a minute. You move in, and then suddenly the closest grocery store is 30 minutes away. Parks, they're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere in sight. And coffee shops, well, forget about it. It sounds kind of exhausting, right? And the thing is that living in a neighborhood without basic amenities isn't just inconvenient, it's also kind of isolating as well. It can make you feel very isolated. And so a good neighborhood should always have these essentials, things like a grocery store, parks, schools, and maybe even a healthcare facility close by. These aren't really luxuries either. They really are must-haves. And homes in neighborhoods with strong amenities, they attract more buyers and generally are going to appreciate more in value over time. But if you're in an area that lacks those conveniences, you're likely to see a lower return when it comes time for you to sell, especially compared to a home in a neighborhood with all of those nearby amenities. So think about it. How far are you willing to drive for, your groceries or maybe to get your kids off to school? And what about public transit as well? If you rely on a bus to get to work, you're definitely going to want to check out how close the bus stops are. And you can do that very easily also. Just do a quick search on Google Maps, and it's going to give you a clear picture of what's nearby, making it much easier for you to figure out if this neighborhood is going to meet your needs before you actually commit. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to reveal the one thing that so many people seem to miss when buying a home. But before I do that, let's first talk a little bit about buying in an area with poor infrastructure and high congestion. And it's one of those things that's a little bit sneaky because most people don't notice it right away when they move in. And so just be aware, because poor infrastructure is a major red flag, and it's especially common in cities that are growing too quickly. So oftentimes what will happen is developers will build massive subdivisions only to leave the residents with roads, schools, and utilities that can't keep up. Now, it's even worse when a city is already behind on those upgrades. And guess who ends up paying for it? Well, you guessed it, taxpayers like you and me. And in fact, in 2023, a report found that 15% of Canadian roads and 11% of its water systems are in poor or very poor condition. And that's not just inconvenient, it's also costly, okay? Now, congestion is also another big one. So you want to make sure that you visit the neighborhood during rush hour. So don't rely on a quiet drive-through on a lazy Sunday afternoon. You're going to want to make sure that you see how traffic flows when the roads are packed. And if there's, a school nearby, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the pickup and drop off times. Sometimes it can be pure chaos during those hours. Now, speaking of chaos, let's move on to something that can be just as disruptive, but in a very different way. And that is industrial or high pollution areas. So here's a question for you. Would you live next to a factory? Or maybe along a major highway? I want you to think about it, because these areas often come with constant noise, air pollution, and even long-term health risks. And on top of that, they can seriously hurt your property value. Health Canada reports that air pollution contributes to 15,300 premature deaths every year in Canada. That's a staggering number, and it's not something you can just brush off. Now, if this worries you, you want to start off by checking out the National Pollutant Release Inventory. It's a great government tool, and it's going to show you where all of the industrial sites are located and the pollutants that they are releasing. But don't just stop there, okay? Make sure that you take the time to drive around the neighborhood. You're going to want to walk the streets and pay close attention to what you see and, of course, what you smell, because these are very important indicators. And also ask yourself, is there constant noise? Is there heavy truck traffic? These are the kind of things that you want to notice before you make the decision to buy in a neighborhood. All right, now let's talk about something that might not be as visible at first glance, but could have devastating consequences. And that is flood zones or natural disaster areas. Now, here's the thing about natural disasters. They're rare, but when they happen, they are devastating. Homes in flood zones, for example, they are harder to insure. And even if you can get insurance, the premiums are usually sky high. Now listen, Public Safety Canada, it reported that flooding is the most common and costly natural disaster in the country, and it's causing $1.5 billion in damage every single year. And guess who ends up paying for that? Well, it's homeowners. Remember the massive floodings that we had in Abbotsford just back in 2021? This Sumas Prairie region, it was completely devastated. Families were displaced, homes were destroyed, and damages were in the millions. And don't forget also North Vancouver very recently faced similar challenges just this year, with relentless rain overwhelming our drainage systems and causing widespread damage. These disasters are a big reminder that you always want to make sure that you check the flood zone maps and consider other risks like things like wildfires and landslides as well. Because even a neighborhood that looks perfect on the surface, it can have these hidden dangers. Finally, let's talk about an issue that few people seem to think about that can have a huge impact on your investment. And that is areas with limited employment opportunities. So get this, even if you're secure in your career, the local economy can still affect you. So neighborhoods with limited job opportunities, they often struggle to maintain their property values and their community vitality. So when you're evaluating a neighborhood, you want to think about the job market. Are there, major employers nearby? And also, is the local economy diverse, or, does it rely on just one or two industries? A strong job market is going to mean a healthier local economy, and that is always good news for your investment. All right, so now that you're aware of the types of neighborhoods that you should avoid buying in, it's absolutely crucial that you understand the types of homes that you should never buy. And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in my next video.